Chapter 1. The Silver Dollar. Once upon a time, there was an enterprising little boy with dark, wavy hair named Louis Lennox Laird, but everyone just called him Little Louis. Everybody liked Little Louis. He was a pleasant and enterprising little boy who liked to figure out how things worked. He liked to build things, too. He liked to be happy, and even when he wasn't happy, he thought of good things so that it wouldn't be long before he felt better. Little Louis lived years ago in a quiet neighborhood in a small town. He lived with his daddy, mama, and little sister, Lindsay. He did his chores at home. He looked after his sister sometimes. He liked to play football in the field down the road with children who lived nearby. He went to school during the week when school was in session, and he went to church on Sunday mornings. He tinkered with his inventions in the garage. He went on walks and hiked in the woods with his dog Ginger. It was a time when most people in our country lived on farms or small towns. It was before microwave ovens and cell phones. No one had television sets. They listened to the radio. They visited on the front porch together to catch up on the news. It was way back before video games and Nike tennis shoes, when most families ate breakfast and supper together every day. People only went out to eat on special occasions. Money was mostly saved, not spent. One summer day, little Louis was walking down the street with his dog Ginger. He loved Ginger. He took her with him everywhere. She was his best buddy. While they were walking, he saw something shiny on the sidewalk. He stopped to see what it was. You can imagine how surprised he was to pick it up and find that it was a shiny silver dollar. Little Louis polished that silver dollar up with his shirt tail, and then he put it in his pocket. He looked around on the ground for more, but that one coin was the only one. He wondered where it had come from. Could it have fallen off a big armored truck? Maybe the man who owned the bank had dropped it as he walked to work that morning. Did it fall from a lady's purse? Little Louis would never know just where this new shiny silver dollar had come from, or how it dropped into the crack in the sidewalk. He just knew that when he left the house that morning, he didn't have any money in his pocket, and now he had a whole dollar. Little Louis and Ginger continued on down the street. He had his shiny new dollar in his pocket as he kicked at some sticks on the sidewalk. He stopped in to see Mr. Acker at the hardware store. After asking how he was doing, little Louis asked Mr. Acker if he needed any odd jobs done. It just so happened that there was a stack of boxes in the back room that needed to go into the incinerator. So little Louis and Ginger went to the back room, and after several trips, the boxes were all cleaned up. Little Louis was about to go out front when Ginger barked at him. Little Louis said, "Oh yeah, Ginger, I almost forgot. I always sweep Mr. Acker's floor for him." "Thanks, girl." So just because he was a good boy, little Louis found the broom and swept the floor of the back room for Mr. Acker. It only took a few extra minutes. When he was all done, he found Mr. Acker and told him he was finished. Mr. Acker checked little Louis's work and once again was pleased with the good job he had done. He gave little Louis 25 cents for his work and told him to stop by again to see him sometime. Little Louis put the quarter in his pocket and said, "Thank you very much, Mr. Acker." Then he and Ginger headed out the door and down the street. As they passed Mr. Jones's grocery store, little Louie and Ginger were getting hungry. Now he had a silver dollar and a quarter in his pocket. Little Louie thought that he could stop at Mr. Jones's store and get some cheese that he liked, and he could buy some potato chips too. But then he remembered that he had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in his pocket. He could eat the sandwich and save his money. Little Louie stopped at the playground in the schoolyard and sat on the bottom of the slide, and Ginger sat close by. As he shared his sandwich with her, he noticed how the sun glimmered as it shone through the trees. They both watched the birds and the squirrels. Little Louie enjoyed telling Ginger, "Squirrel, squirrel, Ginger, squirrel," and watching her chase after them. She didn't really want to catch one. She just liked the chase. After lunch, little Louie thought he might like to go down to the lake to see how many flat rocks he could skip across the water. As they walked, he told Ginger all the things that were on his mind that day. Ginger was a really good listener. One thing he talked about was the fact that he had been thinking about getting a wagon. He already had it pictured exactly what it would look like. It would be a red one, with nice big tires. He thought of all the things he could do with a wagon. He could take his sister Lindsay and the neighbor's little boy Benny for rides. He could use it to put sticks in when he cleaned up the yard. He could use it to take boxes to the incinerator for Mr. Acker. Yes, he decided, he really could use a wagon. Chapter 2. Surprise at the River. Little Louie stopped several times along the way to pick up stones that he thought would be good ones to skim across the water. Ginger stopped several times to investigate something in the bushes. Neither one minded waiting on the other one at all. It was summer vacation, and little Louie didn't have to go to school. He was just glad to get to spend the day exploring. As they came to the edge of the river, little Louie stopped and looked at the stones that he had collected. He chose just the right one. He put the others in his pocket. He took the flat stone and laid it between his thumb and his first finger, with his other fingers curled up like a fist under the rock. He looked out over the water, drew his arm back, and slung the rock. That small flat rock gently walked across the top of the water. It skimmed the top of the water 3 times. Whew! That was fun! Even Ginger had fun barking every time little Louie skipped a stone on the water. Little Louie skipped rocks on the water for quite a while, until he couldn't find any more good rocks to throw. He and Ginger sat down on the bank and played with roly-polies. It was amazing how they would stretch out, and then he could see their little roly-poly legs, all 14 of them, on just one roly-poly. Then they would roll back up into a ball and roll around. Then they would roll back up into a ball and roll around. While little Louie was learning all about roly-polies, there was something else going on about 30 feet away. The noise was getting a little bit louder. Ginger perked her ears up and slowly walked toward the noise. Little Louie heard the noise, too. Little Louie got up and walked behind Ginger through the brush. She stopped and began to bark. He saw that there was a big hole in the ground, and in the bottom of the hole was a litter of brown and white puppies. It looked like there were 5 of them. They looked scared and hungry. The hole was about the size of a schoolteacher's desk, not very deep for Louie, but pretty deep for puppies. Little Louie sat down on the side of the hole and looked down in there. All he could see was dirt and puppies. No snakes or lizards, just puppies and some kind of box that they were in. So he jumped down into the hole and picked up the box with the puppies in it. He said, "Hey, look, Ginger, 5 pretty little puppies." After he got the box lifted out of the hole and put on the ground, little Louis saw that there were 4 wheels attached to the bottom of the box. It wasn't exactly a wagon. It didn't have a wagon tongue, but it did have wheels, and that would make it easier to take the puppies home. What a struggle it was to get the box up the side of the bank and to the sidewalk. But little Louis was a smart and persevering boy. Once he got them to the sidewalk, he just leaned over and pushed the box full of dirty, lively puppies along down the sidewalk, with Ginger looking from puppy to puppy and trotting along beside him. Chapter 3. Life with Puppies. When he got home, little Louis fed the puppies some milk and bread. He left the box with wheels on it outside. He found a clean box for the puppies and put an old blanket in it. After a good supper, the puppies went right to sleep, and Ginger slept that night on the floor next to the box of puppies. The next morning, when little Louis woke up, the first thing he thought of was the puppies. He jumped out of bed and ran over to the box. He counted 4 little puppies. But wait, weren't there 5 puppies? He picked up the old blanket and looked under it. No puppy under the blanket. He looked under his bed, but little Louis didn't see the lost puppy under there. He looked in his closet, under his chest of drawers, and behind the dresser. But no puppy. So little Louis went down the hall to the kitchen, where his dad was sitting at the table, and his little sister Lindsay was sitting there too, holding the puppy. She squealed, "Look, Louis, a sweet little puppy! I found it under Daddy's chair." That little puppy had jumped out of the box and gone exploring the house on his own. His dad was in the driveway talking to a neighbor, so little Louis walked over to him with the board and hinge in his hands. His daddy said, "What are you doing with that?" Little Louis said, "I wondered if you would mind if I used these." His daddy said that would be all right with him. So Louis said, "Thank you," and ran to get the box with wheels, the box that he had found the puppies in. What do you think that little Louis is going to do now? Chapter 4. Little Louis's Good Idea. Lindsay said she would help by playing with the puppies while Louis worked on making a wagon. Little Louis sawed the board to just the right length, about 2.5 feet. Then he drilled a skinny hole in one end and slipped a short piece of rope in it and tied a knot. At the other end of the board, he drilled holes and screwed the hinge on. Little Louis knew what he wanted to accomplish. He had made a tongue for his wagon. Now he was almost through. There were only a couple more steps yet to be done. The next day, after little Louis's box with the wheels was nice and dry, he screwed the hinge of the tongue that he had made onto the box with wheels. Now his wagon was complete. Little Louis stepped back and looked at his work. He was proud of what he had made. He thought that it was probably a better one than he could have bought. Yes, little Louis was very satisfied with the job he had done. About that time, Lindsay came out the door with Pearl. That's what she named the puppy she found under her daddy's chair. Little Louis, Lindsay, Ginger, and the puppies went to the playground. They played chase, and then played cowboys and Indians in the fort. It would take hard work, cooperation, and perseverance. But if they did it, Just imagine the great fun they could have. As they rounded the street corner, Benny, the neighbor's little boy, came running down the sidewalk. He wanted a ride in little Louie's wagon. So Louie let Benny climb in and hold the puppies as he pulled them down the street. It made little Louie so glad that he had made something fun to share. Little Louie was so glad that he had found a silver dollar and a box full of puppies. He was also glad he could do odd jobs for Mr. Acker. He probably would not find another silver dollar on the sidewalk again, but he did know how to work and to earn and to save. He wondered what he would do with the next dollar that he saved. Maybe he could save several dollars. He had seen an article in a magazine that told about a new machine called a jetpack. It was an engine that a man could strap onto his back, and it would lift him up into the air so that he could fly. He wondered if he could build one of those. He was a persevering boy, and he had built his wagon. Little Louie thought he would have to study about the jetpack quite a bit. If he could build a jetpack, where would he want it to take him? What would he do once he got there? Little Louie didn't know, but he was sure that if he worked and saved and thought about how to figure it out, that he could do just about anything. And he was right. The end.